Welcome to Evolve, Reinventing Leadership, Building Freedom Cultures, with thought leader and award-winning author Yvette Bethel. This podcast provides you with insights and ideas you can use to reinvent your culture through trust and the principles of interconnectivity, flow, and balance. At a time when the world is rewriting the rules of work, traditional leadership practices are not enough. It's time to perceive persistent challenges through a new lens. It's time to evolve. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Evolve. This is your host, Yvette Bethel, and the topic for this episode is the No Policy, how trusting your team can transform your business. Our guest is Gui Costin. He's the CEO and founder of Dakota. It's a financial software, data, and media company in Philadelphia. And Gui's story goes beyond just numbers. He's an innovator who's changing what it means to build successful work cultures in the world of finance. As the author of Millennials Are Not Aliens and The Dakota Way, Guy brings new perspectives to sales, leadership, and marketing in the investment world. His people-focused approach has led him to build two multi-million-dollar companies by prioritizing what he believes matters most, the people. Welcome, Guy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you. I almost feel like I should say it's great to have you back.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Just multiple connection issues.
Yes. So, my first question for you is, can you recall the moment or experience that shifted your leadership mindset toward no policies?
I think it definitely was 2011 when we formalized the Dakota Way and our processes and procedures for how we did everything. And part of what I just realized is that I was just going to trust the team as it related to key policies like travel and entertainment and vacation time, and basically have no policies and just treat people like adults, take the time that you need, but get your job done. And what you really realize is that certain people really gravitate towards that and don't abuse it. And we've never had anyone take advantage of it. And I think Reed Hastings of Netflix recently said it the best about the no T and E policy, is that you end up having to create a whole massive bureaucracy to track all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And his feeling was, I'm just going to treat people like adults, and we're not going to create the bureaucracy to track it all. So which I thought was a fascinating look at it. Personally, I just don't. I want to work with adults who want to get their jobs done and want to excel. And so for me to be worrying about all that stuff is really a drain on your energy.
Yeah. I think for most people, when they hear the words no policies, um, they think that there's no structure. And I'd like to invite you to talk about how this is different from having no structure.
Right. So we actually have a ridiculous amount of structure, but we do it by our core principles
Mhm.
and what we stand for. Because if you study businesses, the ability to focus is really critical. And then the ability to have everybody be accountable to get their job done. And that's what we have, is we have an enormous amount of structure and processes and procedures. Now, we don't have bureaucracy. We don't have any middle managers. We have no managers. We have leaders, team leaders. But so the way that you get at the no policies is you need to have standards. And in order to properly serve your customers and create products and grow your career, processes and procedures are critical. Now, I will say, Jeff Bezos stated it like this. He said, you can't have policies as a proxy. And what he meant by that was the procedure that might have worked 2 years ago might not be working today. And that's the old adage of why are you doing it that way? Oh, because that's the way we've always done it. So you always have to be examining your processes and procedures, because they might get outdated. They might not make sense anymore. You might have to eliminate them. So there's a lot going on as it relates to this, but just being aware of all those moving parts um, is really really important. And then it all comes down to treating people like adults, trusting them, giving them clear direction. You as the leader having clear direction, and then making sure that I think sort of what encapsulates all this is a concept of you need to be able to focus on what matters most. And then you need to be able to tap into the collective knowledge of the group through communication. So there always has to be a focus on what matters most. And then you have to have an infrastructure that allows the company to communicate in a way where everyone can tap into the collective knowledge of the group. And that requires a lot of check-ins, technology like Slack, and other stuff like that. And if you can get that, and if you can limit to 0% of your time and energy spent fighting internally, like talking about people or anything like that, and it all can be focused on progress. That's another huge component, right? Of
Hmm.
having a structure where we're not talking about people. If we are, then they're going to have to leave.
Hmm.
Because you want to spend your mental energy on productive activities, and talking about other people are highly unproductive activities.
You said something a bit earlier. You said you have no managers. You have just team leads. And I think this is a critical point that you made, even though you kind of just mentioned it. But I think it's central to being able to have an organization with no policies. Can you say a bit more about that?
Yes, and so everyone has to be a player coach. Everyone has to be a contributor. And if you create the right incentives, then they all feed each other. So everyone has to be a player coach, and we don't need any middle managers or anybody wasting time managing a team. You lead a team, but that leader's in the weeds too, getting stuff done, talking to customers, thinking about the product, coming up with marketing ideas, whatever it might be.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's no room or time for, and I don't think Facebook eliminated all their managers, and because it's just an unnecessary layer, and frankly, it's not a really great way to build a career, because you don't ever really get the respect of the group because you're not doing the work.
Hmm. I'd like for you to, you just made an important statement. You said it's not really a way to build a career, but some might think that the process is a path to building their careers. And what would you say to people who would say, well, if you get rid of that layer, then how do I get to the next level? What do I need to do to move my career up a level or two?
You need to prove that you can get stuff done.
Mhm.
It's just that simple, right? The best workers get stuff done, and then what ends up happening is people go to that person. Now that can be leading a team, making sure the team is functioning, but you're an integral part of the team, right? So it's just not like you can't just sit there and manage people. You have to lead people, and that means being that player coach. That means being involved in the business and doing that. But how you advance your career is being able to show that you can accomplish projects and tasks
Mhm.
very quickly and effectively. So it's definitely not about, and also you think about management, it comes down to politics and
Mhm.
preventing people and talking to other people and just all that stuff. And it's just such a waste of time, because what you really want to do is focus on getting the job done, whatever that is. And
Mhm.
that's how you build your career. And then you just get better and better at it, right? And then people, as you get better and better, people give you more and more important jobs.
I think trust is at the core of everything that you're talking about. And how do you build trust and sustain it within your organization? Because it sounds like you have a lot of it.
Um, yeah, I would say that um, I would say that trust is really earned, because what ends up happening is if you go in day one and you're always in the trust but verify, right? But you're giving people the benefit of the doubt early on. And what they
Hmm.
have to do is they have to actually earn the trust through their performance. And then how do they trust you is that's where you have to be as a leader, be consistent. You have to be live the words and your core principles. You actually have to live them. And so you have to have integrity.
Hmm.
And probably at the end of the day, having integrity and doing what you say you're going to do is how you build trust with your team.
Hmm. I think we all have people that come in from different cultures that we hire over time, and they have different experiences of culture. And some of those cultures may be low trust, they may be high on, you know, kind of control, which is the antithesis of what you are all about at Dakota. How do you, well, first of all, do you hire people from those kinds of companies? And if you do, how do you help to acclimatize them or integrate them in?
Generally, the people that we've hired into senior roles that came from other bigger organizations are incredible doers. So when I can think of our head of data, our head of news, and our chief technology officer are all just doers, and they're great people. And I think when you start to really, show the respect, compliment them, treat them with kindness, um, let them do their job, right? Don't get caught up in any petty anything, right? Stuff like that. Then all of a sudden they're like, man, this is a blast to work here. I can feel like I can be the best version of myself. I'm doing great work. And the CEO
Mhm.
really appreciates my work. And showing that appreciation and gratitude is really critical. Look, a lot of people can't do that that run big
Mhm.
organizations. They just can't express gratitude. It always has to be, this is okay. All right, good. Now what's next? We got to be doing better. Yeah, but we're doing great. Yeah, we need to be doing better. Like it's never enough for people.
Mhm.
And that attitude towards people wears people down. And it's a shame, right? But they're just leaders that just are not self-aware of their own behavior.
Mhm.
There's some level of insecurity inside of them somewhere that they can't. And if you can do it, um, so if you can't do it, um, you can't really grow a business as much as you're never going to maximize the opportunity set
Mhm.
because you're messing with the heads of your people too much.
Yeah, I like your point about expressing gratitude, because people are always so focused on the next goal and the next target. And leaders or I guess they're managers. They don't take the time because they're managing the numbers, really. They're just focused on the numbers and not how people feel. And it seems like what it is that you are very good at is understanding people, their behaviors, and what's behind them. Because you don't even do, it sounds like you don't even do any training to kind of onboard them into this trust culture. You allow the modeling and leadership to help, uh, I guess, plant them into the culture. Is that correct?
Yes, well, we do have a really detailed onboarding
Ah,
program, how we onboard all of our teammates and employees.
mm-hmm,
So yeah, no, we have a very detailed onboarding called Dakota U. It's a distinct process. We talk about our core principles, what we stand for. I have a face-to-face meeting with each person just to check in, and just walk through what we stand for, core principles, the expectations. So yeah, no, we definitely do, and it's just nice because once
mm-hmm,
people understand what you stand for, you just have to have clarity around what you stand for. A lot of people aren't clear, what they stand for, and and then a lot of and what what I've tried to eradicate, like permanently,
mm-hmm.
um, totally permanently, is the excuses.
Ah,
So what's really insidious in terms of uh, the what's really insidious is excuses and giving people reasons to make excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like for instance, I just had a whole session on speed, how we have to move faster as we grow, not move more slowly and bureaucratically. We
Mm-hmm.
have to move faster without sacrificing quality. Right. So what people might say, well, if we have to move that fast and it's all about speed, we have to make a mistake. No, I didn't say that you're allowed to, sacrifice quality, but we always have to be thinking, moving faster. And then you put that distinction out there, and it's like, look, that's what we stand for. We stand for speed. Why? Because speed is going to allow us to serve our customers better,
Mm-hmm.
right? And embracing speed without sacrificing quality is going to teach you how to do certain things that you might not have thought about before. It's going to make you better. So it's all about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because if you're going to make a case that hey, we should slow down decision making, and there's all studies that show people leave jobs because people don't make decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they don't implement the work they've done, or they take forever to make decisions, and right, it just frustrates people. So my point is, you try to focus on the things that matter most, the things that you know that work.
It sounds to
That
me, oh, go ahead.
no good.
It sounds to me that you spend a lot of time um, working on the company as well as working in the company. You seem to have found a balance where the things that are important to kind of cultivate the behaviors that you're looking for are things that you pay attention to and you give a lot of thought to, and you also share about. Can you speak some more on that and how you spend that, how much time you spend on the business as opposed to in the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think of it as you're always coaching. Like so, for instance, we're launching a new product, a new data
Hmm.
set, and there's a handful of competitors that have been doing this for 10 plus years. Because of large language models like ChatGPT and Claude for Anthropic, you can ask them to create marketing copy
Hmm.
and we're competitor to XYZ. And then you can put the details in. And the LLM is going to have a 10x more level of expertise than you'll ever have in that domain. And they're going to come out with all the things that you should be talking about
Right.
as it relates to the product, right? Because it's smarter, but it's also, you have to then coach your team. And this is where you're talking about to think differently,
Hmm.
right? That it's like, don't write from scratch. I don't want to be in the writing from scratch business. When the person at Anthropic and the person at ChatGPT has 50 times the knowledge that we have, and they can give you that knowledge in 60 seconds.
Hmm.
So if you have the expert, let's ask the expert and keep asking questions. And but that's working on the business. That's rewiring how people think. But you have to be thoughtful about that. Where they're like you talk to them like, oh, okay, yeah. So let's not be writing from scratch. Okay, when we have somebody who's 50x more educated and experienced in this domain than we have, why would
Hmm.
we start writing from scratch when we create a direct competitor to that, to these five, right? So let them tell us what we should be saying about our own product that we've created. If you give them the information about the product,
That's correct.
right? And that's really what it's really amazing is that how everyone now has these experts on their team, right? But why be in the business of creating now if it's truly original content? That's not what I'm talking about, right? But our marketing team is amazing, but they don't have 10 years of product knowledge of working at a direct competitor, right? But the LLM
Hmm.
does.
Oh, this is we'll take a break here, Guy. This is your host, Yvette Bethel. And when we come back, we'll explore a bit more about no policy, policies, and trust. Okay, welcome back to Evolve. Our guest is the CEO and founder of Dakota, a leading investment firm in Philadelphia. Welcome back, Guy.
Thanks. Nice to be back.
All right. I'm curious, you had talked about when people come in, you do some I guess onboarding and clearly there's some modeling that happens. And my question for you is, because you talked a lot about integrity previously, how do you design or embed trust in a culture without forcing it? Because it seems like you've actually done it over and over.
I just think it's your way of being, right? And it really comes down to the words that come out of your mouth.
Hmm.
And we all know when people ask certain questions and the words they use and how they treat us,
Hmm.
whether there's underlying trust there or not, or whether, someone, and it just comes down to the questions you ask, the words you use, how you treat people. That's really what it comes down to. And I think it's because I think people can be very revealing in the questions and their tone of voice,
Hmm.
like very revealing. And you just have to be really careful because people feel it, right? If you're using certain words or saying certain things that just completely imply like, hey, he doesn't really trust me.
So emotional intelligence, it sounds like is an important part of building it,
Huge.
sensing people. Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's emotional intelligence is everything, right? And sensing how people are feeling about how they're being treated, or if they're in a certain situation, or if they're uncomfortable, and then having that that's why it's like listening is one thing, but active listening, what you're really getting at is, can you read the room? That's when people say active listening. It's not like listening. It's like, are you able to read the room on how that person's feeling right now based on what they just said, and then react to that? And that's why all the best leaders are the ones that can completely read a room and they can completely feel the emotional aspects of the right.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
generally, well, I think I'm this way. I don't know if it's not 100% of people, but some people as they get older they evolve. Some people as they get older they devolve. And I feel like I'm evolving as a leader, and I try to evolve, all the time. But it's having that awareness
Hmm.
of what's going on in certain situations or with the company, or sometimes you can just a lot of times you're not hearing certain things as much, and then you say, oh, I should probably ask a question about that because I'm not hearing what I used to hear a lot. Then you ask a question like, oh yeah, it's funny you said that. We stopped doing that like 2 weeks ago. Okay, who told you to stop? Nobody. We just decided to stop. Okay, wow. Okay, can we restart that now? No, can we? I've had to just kind of get a culture going of not stopping things that we've asked you to do just because we're not asking you to do them every day.
Hmm. I'm gonna shift the focus a little bit because some people listening to us will probably be in a culture of control. And where you started out, you started your businesses out with the intention of, not being burdened by bureaucracies. Some of them already are. And so my question is, how do you help people coming from a control-based environment to make the shift to no policies and more structure?
I think it's actually pretty easy because I think people feel when they're in those control situations, it's just not a lot of fun. And then all of a sudden, someone trusts you, and you know, like I said, like there's there's standards, right? So you can't compromise or hide your standards. You have to live by your standards, and live up to them. And then I think people fall right in, and they're like, "Man, this is what I've been always hoped for." Like everybody wants to work in an environment where they're trusted. There's clear expectations. People are happy. They're having fun. They're playing at the highest level. They're taking a little risk. They're pushing themselves a little bit. They're supported in being pushed. They don't feel like they're being judged or demeaned or made fun of when they make a mistake or
Hmm.
something doesn't work out. That's why I think actually, if you reverse engineer leadership and you actually describe what utopia would look like, everybody wants. I mean, most generally people don't raise their hand and say, "Look, I want to be completely controlled, and I want to be judged at everything. I want to be put down. I want to be publicly shamed if I make a mistake." You know, that's not. People aren't going to say that,
Right.
right? I mean, that's right. I want to be abused, right? And
Hmm.
but the reason it doesn't happen, that's why we're writing the book Be Kind. It's for one reason. And if there's like a few words in the book or whatever, the point of the book is you actually can have your cake and eat it too. And
Hmm.
people have to get out of their mind that they can't treat people well because those people will not be motivated or they'll take advantage of them or they'll be lazy because you're so kind to them and so nice to them. And it's like that's just simply not true, right? But you as the leader have to do the hard work mentally to like get your brain comfortable with that. And I think that's where the whole thing falls down is that people don't do the hard work.
Hmm.
But you can have your cake and eat it too. But you're gonna have to do certain things mentally to overcome whatever's in your way in that way of thinking. So why wouldn't you want to create the ultimate work environment? Why wouldn't that be your goal?
I think one of the barriers to building out this level of trust is the fact that it could backfire. And I'm curious about any if you have any examples of a time when it backfired and how you harnessed it into something positive.
How it backfired. I don't think I can't really think of a time that the trust factor backfired.
Hmm.
Can't really think of a time where people took advantage. Um, I would say the natural evolution of a growing business
Hmm.
is the business can and will outgrow people. It's not the person's fault. It's not the company's fault, right? And there's a gazillion books about it. What got you here? What get you there? All this different stuff. But that's just the distinct reality is that um, some people just can't. Right, the company outgrows them, despite what a great person they are. And then also the different people that evolve in a business,
Hmm.
and people are evolving more rapidly. And I'll tell you, AI is a great exposer because if you if you had trouble figuring it out, whatever this is, before you had an AI companion and you had an LLM that you could use as your subject matter expert on any subject on the planet, and AI then just accelerates all those people that are using AI to be their companion. Like I just said, just as an example, if you're going to create a business based upon a clear competitor and the LLM knows that competitor very, very well and all its strengths, its product strengths, everything.
Hmm.
Well, you're gonna end up having similar things, right? So you're able to learn very quickly by asking the expert, how do we compete? Write me marketing copy to compete with that firm. Why
Hmm.
is it so important to have the information that that company has? What is that company doing right now that makes their customers unhappy? What are the things they could do to improve to make their customers more happy? I mean, right there, I just gave in under 30 seconds 5 prompts that would give you right now. If you don't have the ability to do that, what's going to end up happening is, and like you didn't have it before, you're going to be like left in the dust, unfortunately, because you're just going to be able to get to the finish line that much faster of a certain project. So if you're like you're launching a new product, you just want some general marketing copy. Even you, Guy, don't know all the ins and outs of the details of what makes the competition strong, but you want to create marketing copy. It literally lines everything up for you. You have to edit some stuff, take some stuff out that you don't do, but boom, all of a sudden you have it. You don't have to hire a consultant. You don't have to be a subject matter expert, but you have the product. You can deliver it, put that information up on your website, have your designer design it. Boom, you're on to the next thing.
Hmm.
So my point is that the company can outgrow the
Right.
person if the people just aren't keeping up, and it's not the person's fault. But it's also very unkind for me as a leader to leave people in those roles for too long when the other
Right.
people are sprinting ahead. So you got to be kind to those people that are getting ahead. And yeah, so I've never really had a situation. We've just had situations where the company just outgrows people,
And how do
where
you
they just have
manage
that.
how do you manage them into something different?
Well, I mean, I always try that, and we've successfully moved people around into roles that they're more successful in and they're happier.
Mm-hmm.
So I work really, really hard, but then in some cases, it's just
Yeah.
it's just not the right spot for them anymore, and they're awesome people, but it's just not the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's yeah, but I think that's just with anything in life. But the faster you recognize that, and the less time they have to fester in that role that they're not succeeding in,
Mm-hmm.
the better. Right? It's just if I were to give myself advice as a older leader to a younger leader, it would absolutely be deal with those HR issues faster,
Ah,
and just because no one wins, and then naturally the leader gets more and more frustrated if that person isn't performing or communicating or
right.
you know
No one wins. That's true. Because they end up becoming, they lose their self-confidence and self-esteem. And then, people who are trying to get ahead and evolve start to feel some sort of negativity toward that. And then that person feels it. So it's like it's actually dehumanizing to be that person, that's kind of outlived their, that's a good way to say it, contribution.
yeah, true.
Now, if a leader wants to shift from a control-based culture to one that's more trust-based that you've evolved into, what are some of the first things that you would suggest that they do?
Well, first off is just define what you stand for,
Hmm.
which sets clear expectations. Make sure the vision is clear, and then make sure that it's clear what they have to do to report progress against anything that they're working on, any project. And so the, each individual feels that they're not controlled, but there's clarity around the goal. And then there's clarity around the expectations against the goal, and then reporting progress against the goal.
Hmm. I think this next question is connected. Um, and it's really what's one question, and it's the final question. What's one question every leader should ask themselves when they're deciding whether to build more policies or more trust?
Hmm. I think it becomes pretty clear that most of your policies could be summed up in your core principles,
Hmm.
but you have to make sure your core principles, as they're stated, are very much personalized to the company, not just some general, give me a core principle teamwork. Well, why? Like, what does that mean? Right. So it has to go more to the personality of the company.
That's right.
And right. And so it really comes down to core principles drive everything. What's expected of you, at the company, and the permissions that you're allowed, right? Because certain people might behave a certain way in their personal life, but they know at work they can't get away with that, and
Right.
so at work, right, because the company wouldn't tolerate that. I think it's becoming more and more common. They call it the no a-hole policy, right?
That's a
Uh,
book, isn't it? I think
yes,
I'm
yes, and that
I'm looking
saying it
at.
nicely. But it's like that like states it all. It's like they just,
Mhm.
but most of the people that are above 45 or 50 years old, probably early in their career, were absolutely subject to, because I think this started to phase its way out a little bit, kind of early 2000s, mid 2000s, if you will, 2000 and 10. It
Hmm.
just, but before that, I mean, there was massive, massive bad behavior tolerated within organizations, massive. And now when people say this, it's like, look, man, I don't want to be around some jerk all day long. It's just not going to happen.
Hmm.
And then even good performers get voted off the island, and then they're wondering like, well, it just happens. Like, dude, you're an ass. Okay, that's what. Okay, and it's not working, right? And then a lot of them were like, okay, I got to change my behavior. That hurt. It's like, yeah, Now the scary thing is the owner of the business is the person who can probably get away with that behavior the most because there's no
Right.
one above them, right?
Right.
And so that's where you have to be really self-reflective. When at the end of the day, you can kind of get away with what you need to get away with. And you might not keep all your best people all the time, or what a lot of people do is they just overpay the people. So they put them in golden handcuffs so they can treat them in a certain way, which is very insidious.
Yeah.
So, but I just think every business comes down to what do you stand for? What are your standards? Is it really, really clear to everybody at the organization of what you stand for and what you will tolerate and not tolerate? And if you can do that and you do it with precision and with a lot of love and kindness without sacrificing excellence, that was my whole point. You can have your cake and eat it too, where you can create a wonderful work environment while still hard charging.
Right. What do you stand for? What do you tolerate? And make a decision with a lot of love. And what was it that you said?
Yeah, and kindness, right?
And
Love and kindness.
kindness. That's
Yeah,
right.
and it's like,
So
yeah,
go ahead.
no. And that really encapsulates it, and it is possible. It can happen. I promise you.
And with that, I'd like to thank you, Guy, for joining us. I love the fact that you take an unconventional approach to policies, one that's grounded in trust. We appreciate this conversation because some organizations put excessive controls in place, using them to replace leader discretion and decision making, and as you call it, evolution. But before we depart, Guy, please tell our listeners how they can connect with you.
So on LinkedIn, Gui Costin, and then Dakota.com.
Mm.
Or if you want me to send you a copy of my latest book, just email your address to Gui at Dakota, Dakota.com, Gui at Dakota.com.
Fabulous. This has been Yvette Bethel with Guy Costin, and we would like to thank you for taking the time to join us at Evolve, Reinventing Leadership, Building Freedom Cultures.
Thank you for listening to Evolve, Reinventing Leadership, Building Freedom Cultures. Learn more about our proprietary trust, leadership, and culture courses and certifications at the IFB Academy. You can check them out at organizationalsoul.learnworlds.com.